Hello, I am Baal Kadmon, and I want to thank you for watching or listening to this podcast. This podcast is in response to a few requests I had to make videos of each of my books, read like a chapter or two, sort of like a book trailer. And here I am, I'm going to do it. This book is the one that I have on Tarot Magick. It's an older book from 2015, but people have loved it, and I still use the magic in this book. The book is called, again, Tarot Magick, Harness the Magical Power of the Tarot. I'm going to be reading 2 chapters from the book. I hope you enjoy it. Introduction. Occultism and magic is rife with symbols. In fact, the very basis of magic and occult is symbology. Everything is symbolic of some higher truth. From the rituals we perform to the books we read, we are immersed in the power and magic of symbols. Although I am of the school of thought that symbols are not 100% necessary so long as you have the strong inner intention and can control your mind during a ritual, I use them nonetheless. In my rituals, if you have read my other books, are pared down. They have symbols but do not overrun you with complicated devices. However, there are moments in the occultist and magician's life that require us to pay attention to symbols. Often these symbols can give you insight into your life. The tarot cards are one aspect of occultism that I feel is worth paying close attention to. The symbols, that is. Tarot cards have been used for centuries, some say even thousands of years, to either foretell the future or to give the person who is having the reading a sense of direction towards life in general or for a very specific issue they are having. I have had my tarot cards read several times, and I always find them insightful. Yes, it is helpful if the person who is reading the tarot cards for you is knowledgeable, but often the symbols themselves, if you pay close attention, can give you some guidance. Since you do not have control over the cards you draw, the shuffling and choosing of cards becomes an unconscious act. Something a spirit, perhaps, or just your subconscious mind is guiding your hands to pick the cards that you pick. Some would say even fate herself. In this book, we will not be focusing on tarot cards as a source of knowledge about the future. There are plenty of good books about that. We will be dealing with the tarot cards in a different way. We will be using them as a driving force for magical practice. It is a fair assessment to say that tarot card symbology is quite powerful, and aside from divination, it can be the driving engine for magic. I know personally I used it. I used it to get someone back into my life. It worked so well that I needed to have the ritual reversed by another magician. So please take heed, tarot cards are a very powerful magnet. Their symbols have a spiritual force. In the next chapter, we will discuss ever so briefly the reason why symbols are so powerful and why they are much more than just contrived ideas of the mind. Then we will discuss the tarot in general, and then to the rituals. Let us begin. The importance of symbols. We often look at cultures outside of our spheres to be somewhat alien. You must admit, when you step off a plane into a foreign country that has almost nothing in common with where you are from, it causes your mind to go into an instant, wow, this is weird. It's not because we are ignorant or that we lack the open-mindedness to embrace other cultures. It is just that we are so different that it often strikes us odd when we see something so different from our own. It's almost automatic, it's unconscious, and it's natural. But if you look closer, under all the customs and mores, you find elements within world cultures and religious systems that are strikingly the same. If you look back into religious history, you will find the cross very prominent. At the dawn of humanity, way before Christianity, the cross had a significance not unlike the Christian conception. It was considered a symbol of the sun. No coincidence that Jesus is often equated with the sun god. In ancient Egypt, the cross is a symbol of life in the form of the Ankh. The Christian cross, although the object on which Jesus died, represents life. It's through Jesus' suffering and death on the cross that we are saved, supposedly. That is according to the Christian understanding. That is, of course, one of many symbols I can choose from. Aside from these basic symbols, like the cross, the circle, and the triangle, which all cultures share, there is a deeper level of symbology that involves certain essences of an individual, such as the warrior, the magician, the goddess, the fool. as well as certain motifs such as the dying and resurrecting gods such as Osiris and Shamash, Jesus, Mithra, to name just a few. There seems to be more commonality despite the apparently disparate nature of world culture. If you look at the stories of mythology and even modern-day religious texts, you will find motifs such as the warrior, the virgin, immaculate conception, star-crossed lovers, the witch, the warlock, the judge, etc. The stories have the same motifs. They are just garbed in different clothing. There's clearly a universal connection here. Those symbols mean something. If they didn't, they would not be following us back to the dawn of humanity. Even many of our creation narratives start in very much the same way and have very similar motifs. We will not go into those here, but if you would like a good book on parallel creation myths, please read Parallel Myths by J. F. Bierlein. It's very interesting. Much of why we share so much of our narratives may remain a mystery, but Carl Jung, a Swedish psychologist, came up with by far the most persuasive answer, at least as far as I'm concerned. He came up with the idea of the collective unconscious and the concept of the archetypes. What are archetypes? They are in many ways the structure of the collective unconscious, which I will get into shortly. They are innate tendencies that reflect our common humanity. Motifs, like I mentioned above, are all common themes. These commonalities flow through all our spiritual traditions. They often manifest in something called archetypal images within religious texts, dreams, and spiritual visions. Essentially, many of the characters in mythology and their stories are archetypical in nature. This also applies to all the biblical motifs and individuals as well. Whether the people in the Bible existed or not is not the purpose of this book, but no matter what their historical status may be, they present archetypical behaviors and demeanors. The hero and the villain are perfect examples of this archetypical form. It might sound odd that I would be writing this in a book on the tarot, but the tarot is pretty much a deck of cards with all the archetypical symbols on them. So I feel that it is always good to know some background as to why the tarot are so powerful. However, before we go into the actual tarot themselves, let me quickly give you an overview of the collective unconscious. All this will give you a better perspective as to why the tarot is what it is and why it's so powerful. What is the collective unconscious? It is the very backbone of our mind. We are all born with it and did not learn any of it. Rather, this part of the mind is innate. You can call it a kind of universal library of human experience and knowledge. Spiritual experiences, according to Jung, must emerge from the collective unconscious via archetypical forms. Jung said it best. The collective unconscious, so far as we can say anything about it at all, appears to consist of mythological motifs or primordial images, for which reason the myths of all nations are its real exponents. In fact, the whole of mythology could be taken as a sort of projection of the collective unconscious. We can therefore study the collective unconscious in two ways, either in mythology or in the analysis of the individual. This is from his book, The Structure of the Psyche. It is with that we will proceed to the tarot, a deck of cards infused with mythological motifs and primordial images. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed those 2 chapters. If you're interested in the book, you can find it on Amazon.com. The name again is Tarot Magick, Harness the Magical Power of the Tarot. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I hope to see you soon. So mote it be.